after your dad died, Gail was like spending money right and left. You had asked if you could have your wedding at her house. She was like, no way. But she hosts this big party instead. And then you get called in because she's in debt and she wants each of you to sign off. And it was interesting that you were like, I'll do this, but you have to do that. And Dweezil was like, I'll do this, but you have to do that. And the other two were like, I'll just do it. No problem. It's almost like there was a understanding with the other two that something was going on and you two had no clue. Am I reading that right, or was
That is actually true. And later when I had more information, I mean later as in recently, I got some more information and when there's secrecy and no transparency and an unreliable narrator, aka your mother, there is it's that's how power happens, that control happens and how it continues happening. It's so, in my opinion, toxic. As far as my siblings go, um, again, the dynamic was totally different. I love Gabor Mate's work on these kinds of ideas where every kid actually gets a different parent. And because they learn something and then they do it differently with the second kid. And then they, if they have any, it was easier for Gail to relate to men because that's how she lived in service of her own father, in service of her husband. And so and then Diva was the baby. So they had more love mixed in. I mean, I feel like we all got that hot cold thing, love bombed and then attacked, which is why it was again a shock to me because in my head, once she passed away, we'd all be like, "We did it! We crossed the finish line together!" And that's I didn't understand that younger siblings don't have that shoulder to shoulder feeling. They have, oh, another person looking over me, and then they're escaping. They're defining themselves opposite everything that's come before them, and I didn't have that awareness, and so now I can see it differently than I did when I was writing the book. And again, because there's always new information coming in that I wish I would have had at the time. And yeah, the other thing I'll say about the legal situation that was confusing for me that I was writing about in the book, that I'm again little by little getting even now more clarity on, is that the actions were done in the name of my father. But when Gail died, my father's will appeared. And so if you're going to do things in the name of my father, then why would you do exactly his wishes? That it just didn't track for me. So we're going to do Gail's wishes in the name of the person that we're not doing the wishes for. It was it just didn't make any sense to
right?
me. And by the way, what I said to Gail at that time, I said, absolutely, we'll help you out, but all of us have to have the ability to have our expression. I was literally still doing the Three Musketeers, except there were five of us remaining, and I really wanted all of us. Libra wanted everyone to have the same
My
size
husband.
slice.
That's my husband. That's exactly how he is.
And then
Libra.
you find out
Yeah.
when she passes,
Yeah.
there was a will from your dad. She has her wishes, which leave you and Dweezil out of really your father's legacy, and that you're 20% 20% 30% 30%. That, it seems like finances and technical stuff always get in the way of familial relationships, and it's really hard to navigate saying I love you, you're my sibling, what's happening is not right. And your sister was like, I'll give you my kidney, but I won't change this. And that was such a stark distinction in your book. How did you reconcile that with yourself?
Uh, so yeah, so essentially Gail sliced the cake very, very differently than I had imagined. And and it wasn't the stuff that bothered me. It was that she said, and when I pass, I wish these two well, and you two not so much. That I say these people have great ideas. I value them. I value the time I've known them. It was around the value and in summation, a shock to me because I had made so much space for her flaws and all. And she hadn't made that space for me, flaws and all. And I didn't even know what the flaws were. And there was no chance to correct anything because there was no communication. And so there were so many things, again, to just tease out and just isolate and examine. during this process. And ultimately what I've come to is, if you're going to make a will, just make it even Stevens, even if you can't stand somebody. And because the best bands that stay together that you love, split the publishing. So
Yeah.
it's, but that's my value. That's how I do my life. And everybody has the dignity of the choices. I don't have to agree with them, but it was sad to me that we didn't learn as a family how to make room for other people, and how we were pitted against each other. And I mean, it was just commonplace to talk behind someone's back. I thought it was venting so that you could then be kind when you saw them next. It didn't occur to me that it was backstabbing. I just thought it was a mechanism for uh, bringing the pressure down so that you could be a more sane individual. And so these kinds of patterns um, that I grew up with had acted upon myself, and then ultimately changed and reworked because of the pain of being on the receiving end of it. It certainly made me a different person.
Right. You know, when I read your book too, I never felt like it was a pity party. I never got that ever through your writing. It was laying out, this is what happened. This is how I'm working through it. But I never got that feeling that you wanted us to feel sorry for you. And I think that's really an incredible talent. I don't know how you did that. I mean, it was really unique.
Because I wrote the draft that was the fire and brimstone,
Oh.
I curse you into all time, and time is infinite draft. I let myself have
Do
that
that.
draft and that space, and the blaming and the victimizing and the thing. I did that draft, and I knew that wasn't where I wanted to go with it, because that's, again, not how I wanted. I mean, I love these people. I have shared history with them, and I wanted to. I just, in my idealistic mind, I thought, well, if they understand what my experience was, then they'll understand why I was so upset about it. And then I just, in the process, like, only I need to know that. That's why I'm that upset.
Oh,
And
that's great.
and one thing that really made me laugh was I mean, I think I'm an oddball. And one of the things that I thought was really funny about me and my nature is that I had a friend who said, you should talk to my therapist. She can help you. And when I talked to the therapist, she said, I can help you. I can reparent you. I can basically be a surrogate mother. It's going to take about 3 years just to get you some footing. And I said, oh, hell no. I'm going to get 3 different therapists and try to get this thing done in a year.